Chelsea Wolfe has been kicking it for years now and has been dropping quality music for the whole of that time, actually. The 2010s was a really strong run for her, and in terms of 2010s artists that probably get far too underappreciated than they deserve, Chelsea Wolfe might be up there at the top of that list. I mean, she's definitely got critical acclaim, and there are a subset of fans that really do adore her work, and I've liked her work too, but yeah, it just doesn't really feel like she's at the top of conversations. Perhaps it's the style of music that she makes. It's not entirely accessible to, you know, your average listener. It's not entirely accessible to the average person, I suppose. But in terms of like the music critics, the music nerds, the music lovers, she should be talked about a lot more than she is. I've fallen victim to that as well, because I realized that when I was looking through my like Last FM scrobbles for her albums and her general music, it was pretty low. And I've realized that actually, in terms of my own personal enjoyment of her music, it's not been as strong as it was back in like 2017, which is when I really did play a lot of her stuff. I mean, Abyss 2015, that was a really good album that I bought on vinyl, but it's a long time since those albums came out, and it's been a long time since I really dug deep into her discography. So this new one wasn't really one that I was too anticipated about. It wasn't really one that I was highly excited for, and that's exactly why we've ended up getting a pretty late review. But it was no reason other than me just being pretty ignorant to the fact that I just have not listened to her as much these days. And while the title is a bit of a mouthful to say, she reaches out to she, which sounds like a bloody she sells seashells on the seashore type deal. But aside from that, this is an album that I do rate very highly, and it's actually one of the best of the year so far. I should have gotten to it sooner. I am only a fool that can only blame myself. Yeah, there's no denying the fact that this is Chelsea Wolfe essentially at the top of her game really here. So late into her career, that's pretty cool to see. But yeah, this is just exactly what you want from this kind of album, with a lot of layered production and some really interesting sound design throughout that adds a lot of depth to her overall sound and just makes for a really interesting album to listen to. I'm not going to recommend this to every single person I know. It's not that kind of album. It's not one that I think is going to transcend most people's, you know, listening habits in that kind of way, because it's not the most accessible. But in terms of what she's delivering and what she's bringing to the table, she's doing it so well that I can't really deny it. Whispers in the Echo Chamber, super industrial sounding, super despondent, makes you feel so hollow and empty because of how cold and just like heavy it all feels on the emotions. And then the growls at the end that she brings through. I mean, good God, there aren't really many moments that this happens on the album, which I think makes it all the more impactful when you do hear Chelsea come out with those really weird guttural growls, because you're just not expecting it at all. House of Self-Undoing, this for me is one of the best songs of the year so far. Absolutely love this track. The relentless drumming almost feels like she's tapping into some like gothic drum and bass. I mean, it's not quite as heavy-handed as something that you get from a drum and bass song, but good God, it's really not that far away. I mean, the drumming here is absolutely relentless. It sounds fantastic. The vocals on this track, she's kind of like tapping into some like Baroque pop, chamber pop type stuff. There are points on this track where I was like reminding myself of someone like a Wise Blood. Like imagine Wise Blood singing over this kind of heavy gothic production and you'd get this song. She really does hit some incredible notes here, and this whole song is just fantastic to me. You've got so many interesting lyrical ideas on tracks like Everything Turns Blue, where she's essentially talking about like a relationship that perhaps has gone a bit awry, and the person, you know, isn't quite the person that they'd hoped they'd be. Some of the kind of emotions that she taps into on this track really remind me of somebody like a Lingua Ignota. Tunnel Lights as well is another fantastic track, really abstract and odd lyrics coming through on this one, particularly as well on the track Liminal. That's another track that has really strange ideas coming through, really makes you ponder a lot of what Chelsea is saying. It's really bizarre, it's really abstract, but it sounds really good. And yeah, like I say, Tunnel Lights too, the booming drums that come at the end. I mean, the progression of this track is so subtle, but it's so good and so satisfying by the end. Unseen World as well, the daunting cinematic sound of this track is so powerful. incredible. It's really, really produced so well. Like, everything about this track is so layered, it's so dense, but it really, really hits hard. And you've got Chelsea's vocals that are just so harrowing and pained, but they sound again fantastic and really works with this production. It just feels like everything is collapsing in, like, within itself and on top of itself. It sounds so cool. You've got the final track as well, Dusk, which again is a fantastic track, closes out the album brilliantly. The final words being about how Chelsea will run through fire for you, which is a nice sentiment, but it isn't said in a way that makes you feel like hopeful or positive. It almost feels like a little questionable, and like it makes the whole thing sound kind of confusing, especially with the production as well. I mean, the Dave Sitek production on this track is fantastic. I mean, you should check out some of the Dave's other stuff if you're not entirely familiar. But yeah, the guitar, the roaring guitar in this track that just absolutely takes over the ending of the song sounds stellar. That's the thing about this album as well. So much of it feels unanswered, so much of it feels hopeless, so much of it feels like you can't latch on to exactly what is being said, what is going on. It just really leaves more questions than anything else, and it's a really interesting listen in that sense. And Chelsea just really, really depicts everything in such an interesting way with her writing style. It's all just so beautifully done, while also being haunting and depressing at the same time too. And the production at times is absolutely fantastic and pushing her sound to new sounds that we may have not heard before, while also committing to, you know, the usual gothic sounds that we do expect from her as well. It's another addition to an already strong discography. Chelsea has killed it once again, and yeah, it's really made me rethink my own listening habits with her, because I really need to listen to her way more than I do, because this album's got me really back into her music, and it's one of the best of the year too. Yeah, it's great. 8 out of 10 from me. Thank you for watching this review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? What's your favourite track as well? Is it the second track that I mentioned? Because that track is fantastic. Let me know. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out more reviews as well. Let me know what I should review next. Check out my Patreon. Support me over on there. Get some perks. Have a good day. Goodbye.